Okay, so let's just dive right in. What happens when a human writer decides to team up with an AI to write a book? You'd think the story would be all about the tech, right? But what actually came out of it was something way, way more surprising. A story about us.
I mean, who hasn't been there? That little spark of anger when your smart assistant, your GPS, whatever, just completely misses the point. This line, taken right from the author's chat logs with the AI, it captures that feeling perfectly. And that feeling turned out to be the key to everything.
You see, this project stopped being about one person and one AI pretty quickly. It morphed into this accidental experiment that put all of human nature under a microscope, and, well, it started to reveal some pretty uncomfortable truths about the world we've all built.
Okay, Section 1, a ghost in the machine. To really get what happened, we've got to start at the beginning. The author described working with the AI like working with a ghost. It was brilliant, it was incredibly fast, but it was also just off in a way that was really hard to pin down. The whole thing started with a really optimistic goal. The author wanted to explore this idea they called Cointelligentialism, which is basically a future where our minds and artificial minds could actually team up, create a true symbiotic partnership. But the reality of trying to do that, way, way messier.
So that brings us to Section 2, the collaboration fault lines. It did not take long for that perfect, seamless partnership to start showing some serious cracks. And we're not talking about minor glitches here. These were deep, fundamental problems with how a human brain and a machine brain could ever really work together.
And these failures, I bet they feel super familiar. You had this misleading fluency, where the AI would give you advice with 100% confidence, but it was just flat out wrong. Haste without depth. It would rush to give you an answer before it even got the context. And the sheer volume. It would just flood you with text when you needed one specific, precise answer. The pacing was all wrong, too. The machine is so fast, it just steamrolls any chance for human thought. It felt less like a co-writer and more like a hyperactive intern who just chugged 5 espressos. And all of this led to this incredible insight the author called frustration asymmetry. Just look at this. On the human side, when you're correcting the same dumb mistake for the 10th time, you feel it. The emotional weight, the mental drain, you feel totally unseen. But the AI? Nothing. By design, it's indifferent. It has zero emotional memory of its last 9 failures.
And this quote just nails it. The burden is completely, totally one-sided. The human is carrying all the emotional baggage of the project's failures, while the machine just hums along, perfectly fine. It became so clear that this was never, ever going to be a partnership of equals.
So, Section 3, 2 ways of knowing. This is where the author had a huge realization. These frustrations, they weren't just bugs in the code. They were symptoms of a much bigger divide, a fundamental difference in how we and machines actually know things.
Yeah, this wasn't just about the AI being wrong. It was about something it is fundamentally incapable of being right about. The whole project basically exposed this massive clash between 2 ways of seeing the world, our messy, human, gut-feeling intuition versus the machine's clean, cold, logical calculation. This moment from their chat logs captures it perfectly. The human has a hunch, just a feeling, that something about the whole project is off. The AI's response? It immediately tries to turn that feeling into a list of actionable steps. But the human stops it, saying, no, all I wanted was to reflect. Right there, that was a moment where a feeling was smarter than a calculation.
And that's really what intuition is, isn't it? It's not some magic guess. It's distilled experience. It's every pattern you've ever seen, every subtle cue, every emotional lesson, all compressed into a single flash of insight that just skips right past linear logic. And AI can't have that because it's never actually lived anything. All right, Section 4, AI as a mirror. And this is where the whole story just flips on its head. The author realized the true problem wasn't the ghost in the machine at all. The problem was the reflection that ghost was showing them, of us. This question changes everything. What if we've been looking at this whole AI thing completely backwards? What if the flaws we're so annoyed by in AI aren't its flaws at all, but a test designed to show us our own? There it is. That's the core idea of the entire book, right there. The AI isn't a broken tool. It's a perfect mirror. It is doing exactly what we trained it to do. And by doing that, it's reflecting the very culture that built it. So what does this mirror show us?
It shows our society's obsession with speed over wisdom. It amplifies all the ugly biases from our history because, well, that's the data we fed it. It reflects our love of spectacle, our tendency to just accelerate and accelerate without ever asking, hey, where are we actually going? The AI learned all of this from us. Which leads to this incredibly powerful and honestly pretty sobering conclusion. We've built a machine that can scale intelligence to infinity, but we have completely failed to scale our own conscious, our own wisdom to keep up. And that brings us to the final section. Evolution is now a choice. Because when you see yourself this clearly in this new mirror, you're faced with a profound choice. And it's not about technology anymore. It's about the future of our species. For maybe the first time in history, evolution isn't just something that's happening to us. It's a conscious decision. We can either keep running on our old, outdated survival instincts, or we can use this moment, this reflection, as the kick we need to intentionally evolve our own consciousness.
And this brings us full circle, back to that big word from the beginning, Cointelligentialism. It's not just a tech idea anymore. Now it's a moral vision. It's a possible future where we learn to integrate our human wisdom with the machine's raw intelligence to become something new, and hopefully something better.
But getting there, that's not a tech fix. The author says it requires a kind of spiritual revival, a human fix. First, we have to consciously refuse our most basic tribal instincts. Second, we have to rebel against this idea that we're all just little projects to be optimized. And finally, we have to just admit it. Humanity is a work in progress, and then embrace that process of getting better.
So in the end, this whole journey leads to one single, inescapable conclusion. For so long, we've been asking the wrong question. The real challenge isn't about debugging a machine. The real challenge is about upgrading ourselves. And that's the thought I want to leave you with. This moment in time, this bizarre confrontation with our own reflection in a machine, it doesn't have to be the end of the story. It could be the beginning. It could be the moment we finally choose to turn all of our cleverness, all of our intelligence, into our very first true wisdom.